Well, welcome back, and it's that special when you get that special package with discreet packaging in it. Let me show you. Oh, 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 oh. Mini Lancer. Now, let me tell you, Mini Lancer, it is the 75% I think of the full-size Lancer. Now, let me tell you, Lancer. The Lancer's designed by a gentleman called Mark Armitage, and he did it for his, he designed it for his mate, who's no longer with us, called Lance Bell. And Lance loved this style of flying, I believe. So Mark designed this. I'm going to put the link in. This is Mark's first trip into producing kits. He's very kindly sent me this one. I have no financial links with the company, but he has sent me this to build. This is the Mini Lancer. Now then, let me tell you, 36-inch wingspan, 39 inches long, 780 grams approximately with the battery, 5-channel radio, a 900 kV motor, 40 amp speed controller, and 4 servos. So now, whoa, all right, calm down, calm down. I know you're all going to be looking, but Nick, you've just got a laser. I always wanted one of these anyway, and Mark very kindly sent me one because this is going to pop a fun on the beach. I'm not being funny. It's a great idea for me to learn when I see people that have done these kits. And we're going to have a look at the wood in a minute. I can look at this and go, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I very much doubt it. I haven't had a sneak look at the kit already, but it's all part of the learning process for me with my laser as well. So, I mean, it's a very, I've got to say, very extensive parts list. Very extensive instructions of putting it together. So I don't envisage me making 2 left wings or anything like that, but you never know me if I'm not concentrating. Let me get the box out and let me show you. Right, here we go. Couple of stickers, some undercarriage. This means some soldering. Interesting story, life story I'm going to tell you about this. Like this packaging, this is all good. Let me just get this all out of the way, and then got a little bit tangled up. Right, now let's have a little look here. Ooh, sheets of balsa. Come on, this is what we're interested in. Oh, look at that big fat wing section. Nice laser cutting from what I can see so far. Looks pretty pucker. Right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. As per the instructions, look at this fantastic hardware kit. Look at that. Look at that. All those bits, all that wire in there. Right, now, fantastic checklist. And obviously a parts list, which I will go through. So I'm going to do it as per the instructions. We're going to go fin, rudder, and then this episode we are going to go fin, rudder, and then doing the tails. Basically going to do the tail surfaces as per the instructions, and then let's crack on. Right, having identified all the parts for the fin and the rudder, now let me show you. I've got some of that scrap bit of 9mm sort of Depron copy from B&Q. Obviously I've got a considerable amount of scrap kicking around because somebody's got a laser. Let me show you. Right, there you go, pin down. And all I've done is I've got that wonderful tape from Lidl, this Parkside tape, covered it up. Highly recommend, if you see this going, I'd highly recommend that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this down like so. just in a couple of places, and then I'm going to build the rudder around that, so we make sure we keep that square edge. The other thing to note is Mark appears to be quite keen on medium sino. Personal choices, I'm going to be using wood glue on mine, so I'm just going to put this together. I'll talk you through it. So all I've done is I've put the fin in place. This is now R1 butted up against it. We've got no worries about glue here, but we're going to be changing the shape of this anyway. So now I have my R2 which goes here, and then I'm going to slowly drop in the others like so, and we're going to crack on like this. Right, my advice is, you'll notice I have got R1, 2, 3 and 4 all pinned together, sorry, all glued together, but they are not pinned. So I realised that this is always going to be slightly flexible, so I'm now just going to pop these in their appropriate places. When I've got it all and I'm happy with the shape and it's square, then I'm going to pin it. Right, there we are. That is all glued together with PVA, and now I'm just going to make sure I'm happy with everything in position and it all looks hunky-dory, and then I'm going to start adding my pins. Right, so we're on to the tail plane and the elevator, and as suggested I have got T1 and the T4s. Now, top tip which will save you a bit of time searching, T3 is just one piece, and also make sure you get the orientation of T2 in the right place. So what I'm going to do is, as before, I'm going to do the basic frame, so that's the 1, the 4, the 3 and the 2. I'm going to put them in together, and then I will be adding the interstruts again using PVA. I'm sure actually medium sino, great. I bet you could smash one of these out literally in an afternoon, but a purely personal choice, health choices, I prefer to use PVA. Okay, you can see exactly what's gone on here. I put T1 in first, then I put this in, and then I put the two sides in, and then I put this long T3 in place. And now what I'm slowly doing is I am just adding these pieces here like so, and then when I'm happy with that, they'll all get pushed up and pinned as well. I'm just adding this wood glue which I get from Angel Wing Designs, which are, I say, the instructions say you could do, and yeah, you could smash this out well quick with the medium sino. Also, I prefer to use the wood glue just in case I need to do any sanding. I'm just going to finish this off now, but in these I think, what are these, interstruts we're calling these? And then the next thing we're going to be doing is getting the bits out and identifying all the bits for the actual elevator. Right. So I'm going to get that side in, and then when I've got all these in, then I'm just going to pin this final bit together. So a little top tip I do occasionally do, so you've got a joint area like that. Look, there's obviously a little gap there, and a little gap there from the laser cutting. What I'll sometimes do is I'll just put a little bit of wood glue on there like that, and then I just massage it in all the holes. It means when you come to sanding it, you get a really nice finish. Okay, top tip with the elevator. Remember, we're going to have a torque rod which is going to go across here, so we need that gap. This doesn't get glued to there. I've just pinned it to the spar, and you'll notice, look, I put a ruler here just to make sure that I've got it fitting square at the ends. So don't glue this to there, because obviously that's the bit that's going to be moving up and down, and you need that gap for the torque rod. So now we're going to start building our basic frame around it and then adding the interstitial pieces like we did last time. Right, that is the very last bit of the elevator. So we have some extra bits to go on in here in the centre. So we're going to need a torque rod. I'm going to need a torquing to. So I'm just going to let that all go off, and then I am going to come back and talk to you about what crap's on. Right, okay. So we have our fin and rudder. So the thing that we need to do with this is just round off this leading edge, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Now the trailing edge, there is no mention of tapering this at all, so I'm just going to gently round that off, not massively, because apparently if you thin these right down, they're just going to flutter. So an expert has told me, and obviously this is where we're going to hinge, so I'm going to round this off with a David's plane, so it's basically round, and then we're going to mark where the hinges are going to go. Then we're going to cut little slots for the hinge. I think I'll most likely do the hinging once I've actually done the covering. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to sort these out, and let me show you, and then I'll show you what we do with the tail plane as well. Little thing to show you here, when I'm planing, you'll notice that I'm going to plane that way because that's the way the grain's running. If I plane it this way, it's going to dig up. Also, I'm not going to use the plane across the top. That bit's going to get sanded. And a good tip is to count as many swipes that you do with the planer like this, so that I've got that just to the center line. And if you count how many you've done on there and then do the other side, and you'll notice I'm going to have to turn round and go the other way so that I've got it on I'm going with the grain like so. But you notice 3, 4, I'm just going to check that. Lovely, there you go. So that I'm now just going to finish that off with my sanding block. We get old Perma Grip from Stanley, and then we're going to round the end off as well. But this bit I'm just going to clean up, give it a couple of licks, but I'm just cleaning that. I'm not changing any angles on this. This is staying flat. Right, fin is done. You'll notice I've left the very tip here exactly the same dimensions, because otherwise it means you'd have to taper this bit as well. We might have to do a little bit of adjustment anyway. So that's the fin done. So rounded, not massively, but just rounded edge. But I've left the very tip just at the top there, look, it's just the same dimension. And I'm just going to clean this up. I am just going to give it a couple of licks, basically just to remove the burning off of the from the laser cutting. Right, now I'm going to generally clean this up, just go over all the glue joints gently. I am just going to, with a bit of hand sandpaper, just take that edge off like so on both sides. But what I am going to do is I'm going to round this like I did with the leading edge, because this is where we want our maximum amount of hinging on this post. So I've rounded the edge off and then just gone over with some 80 grit just to make it nice and round like so. And then the actual joints, I'm just very gently supporting the frame. Just having a feel round for any rough spots. And I'm going to do exactly the same cleanup. So I'm just going to gently round the leading edge. I am just going to run the sand block just along here just to take the burn off, and then I'm just going to give this a gentle sand up as well, and then we'll talk about what we've got to do for the elevator. Right, tail plane. rounded edge, square trailing edge, and I've just gone over everything just to make sure. So what I basically did was I laid it gently on the flat and then just move the sander over a couple of times very gently in case you've got any very noticeable high spots. And I've just taken that down, sanded that down, so that's all done. Now I've literally just rounded the edges off, not gone mad. Now, elevator, we've got to round this edge off because this is the bit that's going to be moving up and down, and we're not taking off, we're not tapering this. This stays square. I believe that if you taper these right off, then they flutter quite a lot. So I am just going to run around like there, make sure that these are all square, and that's sanded square, so we've got no sticky out bits. We're going to round this off because obviously that's moving up and down. I'm just going to take the sharp edge off with a bit of sandpaper, and then we'll talk about joining these two together. Right, so we've done all that little bit of sanding. Next thing you're going to need is this panel with these 4 triangles. Put this back somewhere safe, and you're also going to need this, which is to join the 2 elevator halves. And let's crack on and show what we got to do. Right, these triangular pieces, it says in the instructions obviously just to chamfer the edge so it's a lot more aerodynamic. So you can see there where I've actually sanded it, and I've just started to get, I think it's 3 layers of ply there, and I've got that line through there which tells me that I've gone down straight enough. Now all I did was I literally held them on the end of the bench like so, and then I got my plane. I just found it easier to do it like this, and then just slowly work your way round the triangle. There you go, and I'm just finishing it off with a little bit of sandpaper. There you go. Right, there's another one done. So we've got 4 of those to do. So you crack on and do those, and I'll get back to you. Right, little top tip here. Obviously, the idea is that we are going to put that on there like that. But you'll notice that obviously because we've got the ply underneath, it's not going to be square. So in the bit that we cut these triangles, there was a triangle at the end here. I've cut that scrap off and made 2 fillets. So what I'm going to do is I am literally going to, I've made sure it's clean, I'm literally going to put that on there like that. That's going to sit on there like so, and then all I'm going to do is put the ruler there so we know it's all fitting nicely, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin those 2 bad boys together and do exactly the same the other side. So let's just put this on here like so. That's going to go on there. We bring the ruler up just to make sure that we've got the ends of fitting flush like so, and I'm going to pop that in there to hold it in place. I'm just going to put 1 in there to hold the tail, stop that tail plane sliding about like so. Now all we do now, the other thing I've done is in your kit this will be cut square. All I've done is I've got my Dremel type drill, this is the one from Lidl, sort of a Dremel copy, and I went round that with this sandpaper disc, just smooth the edges, and you'll notice I've just let it run up the sides as well. That's for better glue adhesion. The reason for tapering it is going to be easier to fit it inside the hole. So what we want to do is we're just going to fit this in here. That's going to fit on there like so. So what we need to do now is we are going to mark where this sits just on the leading edge of the tail plane there and there. I'm going to make sure I've got it square, and then I'll show you what we're going to do afterwards. Right, so this is, let me just set that up for you. Right, let me just open that up. That's saying 3.19 mil. Yeah, 3.9. So I have a drill here, which is, that's 312. So I'm now just going to, as square as I can, you can see where I've marked the centre of the leading edge, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill straight down inside there, as square as possible. Right, top tip, I have just measured the length of this, the longest bit, and I've just put a little bit of masking tape there, which means that you don't end up drilling through the bottom or out through the side. So I know I now have to just drill to that length, and we're almost there. There we go. And you just remember, you're going to need to go a little bit deeper because it's got to fit flush. So if I just, there you go. So let me just show you about cutting this slot. So what I normally do is I will just cut a V in there, like so. All I've done is I've just run that along there, and that's given me a groove. Oops, switch that off. That's given me the groove for the torque rod, so that is going to fit in there. Like so. You want this fitting flush, like so. Right, let's do the other side. Right, there we go, job done. That's it sitting there. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Obviously we're going to use epoxy for this, and then I'm going to get everything jigged in place. I'm going to epoxy this into place like so. When I've got it all pinned down and I'm happy with it, I'm going to remove this so we don't end up gluing that to that. So I'm using epoxy on this bit, not super glue or wood glue. Just make sure that you've got it all centered properly. I've got my little wedges here to make sure it's all square across. Job done. Right, there it is, gluing went very well. I actually used some of this, I should be on commission from this tape, and I've laid it flat and then pushed it up, and that is actually protecting the tailplane. So I'm just going to leave that as is, sat there, and then I'm just going to let it go right off. Let's get on with the fuselage. Right guys, part one of the Mini Lancer is done. That elevator connection is just going off. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to be looking at the fuselage. So I'll be back to you very shortly. I'm going to try and do these in very quick hit videos, but actually try and do them just during the week, weather permitting, because I'm not being funny. If it's a lovely day, I might be going out flying, but I'm going to do my very best. So there you go, part one, Mini Laser. Thanks very much, and I'll see you shortly.